Welcome back to Whisper to the Wild One. Our episode today is titled She Wasn't Broken, She Was Bright. And we are looking to have just a soul nourishing conversation today about our inner child, wild selves, and parts that are still longing to be seen. I'm Susie, your therapist and guide today.
And I'm Marcus, your certified life advisor, and always we're here to listen and connect, and we appreciate you here being with us today.
Today's episode is an invitation to see ourselves and our stories through a gentle lens, one that recognizes how bright, tender, and whole we truly are beneath the stories that told us otherwise. And so I kind of want to just start with sharing a story. The story can be one that closely reflects your own, or maybe it's a story of someone you love or know deeply. And the story goes that there was a young girl who felt everything really deeply. And she was the one who asked too many questions, laughed too loud, danced in the kitchen when no one was watching. The world told her she was too sensitive, too much, too messy. So she learned to shrink, to quiet herself, and to blend in. And for a long while, she believed she was broken, but she wasn't broken. She was bright, and her sensitivity was a superpower. Her questions were her curiosity, her laughter was her medicine, and her dance was her freedom. And I share this story because so many of us can feel brokenness in being put down or having comments made about us. And so oftentimes these things like I laugh too loud or you're being too silly, something that we tapped into on our last episode, it can be reinforced by our culture, family, or sometimes even trauma. And so we just want to have a conversation today about how these different what's the word? How these different systems enforce our ability to either be tapping into our wild self or sometimes enforce us to shrink. And so I'm just curious, what is something that maybe you thought was too much, and that you actually really enjoy carrying and keep fighting for, even if society or culture tells you otherwise?
Yeah, my passion for music, and again, my passion to be a live musician and perform. I've had people tell me, you're an artist, you're gonna be a starving artist, ha 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 ha. It's like, oh, so I was told, hey, go to school, get a degree, you'll be fine, you'll get a job. Like, and this is like, and again, I'm an adult, I made these decisions, I could have chose to ignore it, I didn't. But again, we're still learning, we're still growing. It's never too late to change. But I did go to school. I have 2 degrees, and again, the job market has changed a lot. So having a degree necessarily isn't a automatic path to getting a job. So not only was I not only was I quieting myself, and doing what others did. When I got to the end of the goal, it's like, fool's gold. Just kidding. This is not so like that was time I could have been using to cultivate my passion, my wild one, my true inner play, as like we said last time. Again, I don't feel sorry for myself, but this is something I use it as a learning experience, and I use it as a teaching experience to my life coaching clients and to friends and family, that if you're kind of being guided in a direction, but it's not speaking to you, it's not really making you feel passionate. Like the famous saying is, you how do you know you're doing something you love? Well, it doesn't feel like a job. You look forward to doing it in the morning. You wake up and you're like, wow, I can't wait to do that. So if you're not doing that, maybe you need to pause, reset, and reflect and say, what is that thing that will make me happy and passionate? Again, don't quiet, have you quieted yourself? So that's the first step. Like, have I quieted myself? Am I happy where I'm at? And if you're not, it's okay. It's never too late to change. It's never too late to start redirecting your path to something that would make you a little bit more, not a little bit more, just make you satisfied and, like I said, engaging in that play, like we talked about last week.
Yeah, I think something that you said was like the fool's gold. What a great concept of looking at it. You know, and something we talked about on our last episode as well was how a lot of us are taught to look externally for validation, and that's our initial upbringing, to be honest. We're told, okay, look for external validation, make mom and dad happy. What are some other things? I'm just trying to think of like all of the moments where like you're trying to bring home a good letter grade, right, to your parents and things like that. And so we oftentimes look externally, but then we forget to start relying on our own internal ability to know what we need, to know that we're capable. We all have this sense internally of what we need, but we forget to tap in. And so like you said, so many of us were told, go to school, get a degree, it'll get you a job, you'll retire from that job. But wow, society and life has changed drastically. And so I think that's where, when we think about that story at the beginning, where, she was like, the girl was told she was too sensitive or too messy. Just because you're different doesn't mean you're messy. And trying to find ways to get our clients to see that, to get our members out there seeing that. So that's just something I've been thinking about, and we've been trying to pass this on to new students who are coming into graduate school because there is a deep need for a growth mindset. And so, what would be some advice you would give to someone if you were trying to get them to tap into a growth mindset?
So, to tap into a growth mindset, you just want to make sure that you are willing to be uncomfortable. You want to, sometimes growing is not easy. It's, we always want to take the path of least resistance. We want to take the path that's easiest. But growing it takes time, it takes work. Look at, even if you're looking at like watering a plant, you have to look at, okay, well, what type of plant is it? Is it an indoor plant, an outdoor plant? If you have an indoor plant, but you have it outside, it's going to die. If you haven't, vice versa, right? If you have an outdoor plant and you have it inside, why is this not growing? Well, you need to understand, what type of, tools. If you're not working with the right tools, then you're not going to grow. If you're putting vegetable oil in your car and you're wondering, why is this not moving? Because you are not using the right, resource to get your engine to go. So it's the same for our mind. Like, what are the tools that I need to grow? Is it cutting out that toxic friend? Is it changing your mindset from what you were told from society or what you were told from, different aspects of your life? We've always, like I said, beginning of the, a few podcasts back, we definitely can sometimes go into people pleasing and we split our roles, but we need to like also be able to be a people pleaser to ourselves. Like we always like, well, last time will be the, a lot of times we neglect to people please ourselves. We're so busy trying to make this person happy, that person happy, and we're so split and tired at the end of that. It's like you don't even have the energy to work on yourself to grow. So the first thing is make sure you have that comfortable environment and that community that you can foster the, the right environment. So make sure that you have the right tools, you have the right community, and you have the right, you know, just mindset to grow. And again, it's going to be uncomfortable, but that's okay. Not all change is easy. Not all changes, it's going to just flow. So, it's being comfortable with being uncomfortable to grow.
Absolutely. And I think finding that moment where, like you said, finding your space that allows you to feel comfortable enough to grow and connect with your community. Something that we did this a couple weekends ago was we attended a night out with our friends. Sometimes our for those of you who don't know me well or are still getting to know me through this podcast, I'm an introvert. So sometimes going out and being amongst friends or even family can feel really exhausting. But we went out and we had burgers in our friend's backyard. Like it was just a really great evening. And we're connecting, especially with one of our mentors who's been guiding us through this podcast journey. And he then led us to listening to another podcast the next day. Their podcast, I am going to give him a shout out because I thought it was so amazing, Unlimited Wisdom. And, in that podcast, they talked about being amongst community of people who want to build other people up. And I can say, at least from an entrepreneur side of things, sometimes other entrepreneurs don't want to build other entrepreneurs up. And we have to really remember that we all have a different wild self. We all have a different whisper. And it was amazing because in that podcast, I think, the host said whisper like 4 or 5 times. And every time he did, we commented in the YouTube chat, whisper, whisper.
He said the thing. He said the thing.
Yeah, he said the word. He said the word, and obviously he doesn't even know who we are, but I think that it says something. There's something out there for people who are needing to listen to that whisper just a little bit more. And so I think that that's why we are pushing forward with this podcast and pushing forward with some rebranding in our business, Luminous Self, because we see a need for people to connect as a community.
And we see also a need for, again, I'm a dreamer. I'm working with Susie, my wife, to be a bigger dreamer and to not, get down on herself when she's like, I don't know if I could do this. Like, yes, you can. Stop turning those I can't into I can, I will. This is happening. We're manifesting, because that's that I can't, that's your whisper being muted, but you turn that into an I can, I will, this is going to happen. And there's been many times that she'll manifest the dumbest things like, oh, I want to get a free blah 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 from Disneyland, and just randomly she said it random, and then we go over there and it's like, here, would you like to try this free sample? And we go to Disneyland a lot, so this is not like something that happens. No, but she just said it, and then it happened. I'm like, see, our words have power. Our words have meaning. If you speak something out into the universe, whether it's good or bad, if you're saying my life is always going to be tough and I'm never going to catch a break, well, no, you're not, because you're speaking. You know, you're not. You've already been defeated. You already
Mhm.
have called it quits before the race even started. You just so using our words, we need more dreamers. We need our dreamers to be bigger dreamers. We need to help others. So we're not going to
Mhm.
do it on our own. So like you said earlier, having other entrepreneurs, sometimes we get a little close to the chest where it's like, I don't want to help this person because if I help them, then they're going to take my idea. No, we can't think that way. We have to help each other and foster each other. What you do is different than what I do. So I'm a performer, but I'm not going to stand in someone else's way who maybe has a dream of starting a studio. Like, well, I don't know because he might do, he's in the music industry and I'm in the music. No, let's help each other. And even if we don't end up working together, at least you help someone achieve their dream. And then, maybe it comes around, someone can help you in a different facet. So let's not be afraid to help one another and be, scared on that aspect.
Totally agree. And, so much of what keeps people down, and this has been a theme I've noticed in the last few weeks of work, is this sense of fear. And, fear can also lead to feelings of anger. It can lead to stagnation. And one thing that I've been trying to do in terms of combating fear in my own life is really just put my best foot forward, right? Move in action, because when we get stuck or in a stagnation place of mind, we only breed more fear and then resentment, anger, sadness, all of the bad feels. So, in my own journey of healing as well as trying to help others heal, we've been really tapping into movement and somatic experience. So somatic experience or therapy is really about releasing energy from the body. And that's one thing I've been trying to tap into. Last week, I was successful 4 out of 5 days for moving my body, getting up from the desk, and really just being intentional about it. And you can really start to see your fear reduce. What do you do to help reduce your fear?
So my fear reduction is just having that mentality of saying, I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail, and that's okay. It's okay to fail. And I think that's what a lot of fear comes from. It's a fear of being a failure. It's a fear of being judged, but I don't care. I'm going to fail. But what I'm not going to do is give up. So one of my favorite quotes, and this is from one of my game developers, but success is moving from failure to failure without loss of momentum. So you're going to fail. Like again, I brought up Walt Disney, the last podcast, but if you watch one of the shows that are now here in Anaheim, or they have one in Florida too, where it goes through his life, and it pretty much says Walt started here with the newspaper, but he knew he wanted to go into movies. So he put in all of his money into that basket, and it was just enough to get his studio. But then his studio had some shady contract where they took Oswald, before Mickey Mouse, and he lost it all. So he had to start all. He could have given up at that point and said, you know what? They did me dirty, and you know what? I put all this into Oswald, but he said, I'm not giving up. And then he created Mickey Mouse. And then from there, he put in all of his money later down the line, and then had a studio. But then 2 years later, he was broke. So he had to start all over again. And then he's like, you know what? I have scraped enough money. And then he says, I'm going to build this little place called Disneyland. And back then, he didn't know if it was going to succeed. He had a dream, he had a vision. And that's my inspiration. It's like, I'm not afraid to fail, but you don't want to just fail and give up. You want to fail and then keep moving forward, as you said. Keep moving forward. Move from failure to failure until you hit that success.
Great transition because that was one of the things that we did implement into, like I said, our training with our new students, welcoming in new grad students was this concept of bounce back and bounce forward. And the little image on the screen was this paper ball that was like bouncing upstairs rather than like falling down. And we have to remember to bounce not back, but forward also, because we get stuck and there's just such an intense mindset that if we fail, we're not worthy. Like we start breaking down our self-confidence, we start breaking down anything and everything we thought of we knew about ourselves. But if every great inventor did that, we would not have the car, we would not have light bulbs, we wouldn't have Disneyland. If anyone hasn't figured it out, we're Disney adults.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Just a little bit, but I mean, there's so many other people out there. There's authors out there, there's movie producers, there's great inventions that have been made from people bouncing back and bouncing forward. And so I think if anything, the ongoing pursuit for this podcast is how do we continue to get you guys to see things from a different lens and a different perspective, because we all have so much to give, and if we always are going to keep falling down, how do we build our community to help us back up and keep going forward?
And also too, to change your mindset that failure is a bad thing. It's actually not a bad thing. It's actually a great thing because you learn, and this is true. You learn more from failure than you do your successes. If all you did was succeed all the time, then you're like, I'm invincible. But no, if you fail and then you pause and say, okay, I messed up here. Here's why I messed up. Let me not do that again. Again, and all the people that we've named, plus, some others in the future. You can go back to one of my favorite musical quotes was the drummer from Foo Fighters, and he was kind of talking about how he would not be, was it Foo Fighter or Green Day? It's one of the drummers from either Green Day or Foo Fighters. You have to look it up. But he pretty much said if we were to around in the era of the American Idol, the all these shows where they judge me. He's like, there would be no band. He's like, we were in a band, we were in a garage, and we sucked. We played in front of people, and we sucked some more. And now now we're one of the biggest bands in the world. So it's okay to mess up as long as you are not beating yourself up, but you take that as a learning opportunity to say, all right, what can I do differently? What tweaks do I need to do? What mindset do I need to do? But just make sure that you take that failure as a learning opportunity and then keep moving forward.
How many times can we say keep moving forward?
A
But
lot.
honestly, there's just no, yeah, there's no other better sentiment for it. And so, with that, I think it's a great place to put in our musical
Bum,
muse.
bum, bum. We don't have any official music yet, but maybe one day.
Maybe one day, and maybe this is the day we're still kind of trying to find that right tune to tap into our musical muse. But is there something that you have for us that could tap into how we can cultivate either a growth mindset or keep bouncing forward? What do you have to serve us musically today?
Today's musical muse is one of our favorite artists that we barely discovered a few years ago, but Panic at the Disco. They are so talented, they're so amazing, they're so energetic. But one of the songs that I love that's like, hey, don't give up. And when you get to the end, is "Hey, look, ma, I made it," right? That song is like, it's just that song like saying I fought through things and but at the end, I made it. So you just want to make sure that there is at the end, again, I talked to this at the last one, but sometimes at the end of the rainbow, you can find the full scope, but that because you went through the wrong path, but that was that path. Try a different path until you have made it. So take a listen to Panic at the Disco, and again, tell us if there's any songs that you want to hear. But listen to this one. This one is definitely a song that it really revives a sense of I've been going through this. I've been fighting and struggling, but you know what? I finally made it because I didn't give up, because I, didn't take failure as a opportunity to quit. I took it as an opportunity to keep going. I'll even share a story. We do have again, we're Disney people, so I was we went to this thing in the show at DCA called Matt Tea Party, and I remember standing there back in the day, 2012, 2013, looking at these performers on stage saying, wow, they're really talented. I'm gonna perform with them one day. And then I was sitting with someone one day and they were performing, and I said out loud when the band was done playing, I'm like, I'm gonna perform with them one day. And they're like, no, you're not. How are you gonna do that? That's gonna da da blah blah blah. Negative, negative, negative. I said, don't worry, it's gonna happen. And since that time, I've had multiple shows with them. They performed at our wedding and we performed at professional gigs at the Gas Lamp in Long Beach and other gigs where that I hosted my own show called This Is For You after that. And you know what, Ma? I made it. And we're just getting started. We are just getting started. This is just the beginning of my musical journey, my dreamer journey, and that song. Every time I hear that song, it definitely resonates with someone told me I couldn't, and I could have believed them in that moment. I could have said, "Yeah, you're right." I said, "Okay, just you wait and see." And you know what? I made it, and I'm gonna keep making it.
Thank you so much for that. I actually used, no, I didn't have the musical muse. I wish I did in my lecture, but I did use your story because a big part of the growth mindset is tapping into the power of yet. And I shared about how sometimes I'd call you out and say, "Where's that sold out concert?" or "Where's this? Where's that?" And that you always tap into, "I don't have it yet, but we are on the way." And that is what, putting fear aside, putting shrinking aside, you know how to tap into your wild self, and you have that desire to say and shout, "Hey, Ma, look, I made it." And we're making it. I think also we have to sometimes remember to just tap in to the idea that we are already making it, right? the things that we are living for right now, the things that we are doing are moments that we prayed for, wished for, manifested years ago. So tapping in, checking your place, and remembering that we can continue to bounce forward.
And also to add to that too, if you again, the reason when I that person met me in 2012 and they told me I wasn't gonna make it, if that person had told me that in 2000 and like a few years back, I may have listened to them. But again, I took there was a moment of, a light bulb moment, a moment of clarity of when the band, and I talked about it the last podcast, but when it broke up, when my place stopped, I took a moment to reflect and say, what am I doing with my life? Why am I unhappy? And I started to change my mindset and I started to look at all my failures and I started to say, these aren't, these failures don't reflect who I am. They're just little speed bumps. And, it's like, a phone call. Oh, this line's busy. Let me try again later. Maybe if I call later, it won't be busy. So, up until that point, I didn't get to that 2012 point just by pure magic. No, it was years of me changing my mindset, growing my play, growing my wild one to who I am now. And I'm still growing. There's always room for improvement. There's always room to, you know, improve oneself. But I definitely my mindset is in a better place now to where if someone tells me that my dream isn't going to come true, I'm going to tell them to kick rocks with sandals on, because you don't know, I'm sorry that you chose a path that you're not happy with, but don't tell me what my path is because I've already proven that, I can manifest my dreams. And same thing with you, Susie, you can manifest dumb churros from Disneyland, but or just random things. You manifested, but to even on a serious note, you manifested your business. You said, I'm going to have my private practice before I was 30. Check. I'm going to have my license before I'm, 28. Check. You said that with such confidence, and if you could probably take it back to your old Mr. Smith or whatever, the counselor that says you're not going to be a good social worker. Well, guess what? You have one of the most successful self-running things in therapy businesses, and Lumen itself is like you don't even have enough room for more clients. But you manifested like I'm done working for corporate. I'm gonna work for myself, and you have, and you're continuing. And then now we're building up the life coaching, and then we're gonna go into our 501(c)(3) where we're going to be helping pets. We'll talk about that another time, but look out for that. But we have so many things in the work, and there's been things along the way that people are going to go, how are you going to do that? We're working on it. But, it's just when people try to tell you, like, well, that doesn't seem realistic. Well, it's like, okay, well, just wait and see, you know.
I totally agree. And it actually is a great way of, thinking about some of the services that we do offer. We recently launched the Creative Reset package, and that is for all those people who are trying to manifest these things, trying to manifest their 501(c)(3s, manifesting their private practices, or maybe you're trying to manifest your band schedule or going on tour, getting your stuff in an art exhibit, right? There's so many creative outlets out there that people are trying to manifest and get into, and we can feel bad, right? We can feel like there's so many of those guys telling us, you're not going to do that. And so, our creative reset package, if you want more information, you can check it out on our website. We also have little blurbs about it on our Instagram, but it is out there for you to connect with one of our life coaches on our team and really reconnect with yourself so that you can tell that person, kick rocks with sandals because I'm doing this. And we want to be there when you shout, hey, Ma, I made it. So,
Right.
we're
And
really excited.
absolutely. And maybe you want to manifest, hey, I want to own my own ice cream truck. You know what? For the person out there that wants to own your ice cream truck, go do it. And if you want to know like what the steps are to do it, again, I'm a life coach. I can tell you the steps. I can get you in that mindset. I can help you engage and play. One story that I love to tell to my lovely wife, who's also our, co-host Susie, I would say our parents would say to me, my parents would say to me, stop playing video games. What's that ever gonna do for you? That's not gonna ever make you money. And then now you have people, on tournaments for Fortnite, making millions of dollars, and people living off of different platforms doing ventriloquism, doing playing video games, or just sitting there talking. But we were told, our parents, and again, no fault of their own, that's just how they were in a different culture where it's like you have to do this to get by, and that's it. There was no room for play. There was no room
Mhm.
for the wild ones. So maybe we're coming from someone that raised us in that generation, and that's why we're having this conversation. But, I'm always one that likes to challenge people and challenge myself. So, my parents told me, hey, you need to do XYZ. Don't play video games. Don't do this. I mean, they supported the band, but they say you can do the band, but also go to school. Well, don't make sure the band's not your main focus. Make sure you go to school. But they came from a different time in society, so we don't have to fault them, but just see where they were at, in their lives, and we can use that to say, okay, that was them, but you know what? The world needs more dreamers. So whatever it is you want to do, and if you're having questions and you want to be coached, again, come to Luminous Self, put in .com, luminous-self.com, put in your information. I have some slots open. We can talk about it. We can help your dream come true, whatever it may be.
And with that, we love this energy. We love the idea of keep moving forward, bouncing back, having a growth mindset. And sometimes we also just have to return to like that gentle space because when we are growing and dreaming and creatively resetting, we have a lot of power and a lot of energy, but it's okay to still tap into that softer, gentle side. Remember that you are doing all the things that you can possibly do. And so, depending on where you are right now while you're listening, or maybe later if you're driving, we just ask that you take a moment, place your hand over your heart, and take a deep breath. We've talked about a lot of growth. We've talked about fear. That's sometimes the new F word these days. And we want to just say, uh, like I said, take that deep breath, whisper to yourself, I am not broken. I am bright. I am not a failure. I'm moving forward. And feel into one moment in your life when you can truly feel that aliveness. Let that aliveness and memory light you up from the inside out. And let it remind you that your brightness is still there and you're a luminous force to be reckoned with. And just close out with a nice, gentle breath. We're hoping that you feel inspired through this conversation.
Because we also want you to feel inspired because you are inspiring. Even if you feel to this point in your life that you haven't done anything great, you don't know that. You could have touched someone's life that you just helping them out with whatever it is that could have changed their life. So, just because we don't have that direct validation doesn't mean that you haven't done something great and that there are great things to come. So don't feel like you said, like Susie said, like a failure. Just it's just we have not moved to the place where we are destined to be at. So we're growing our podcast. We have our lovely 10 followers. We appreciate every single one of you, and we hope to grow one listener at a time to where we have, a million listeners, and just be able to reach people and have talk to people and just help others because we're not the only ones. We started this podcast because we had our wild ones muted. We've had our whispers quieted, and now our whispers are turning into shouts, and our dim light is brighter than the sun. So we want to help each and every one of you get there too, because we've been there. We can definitely empathize. And so we are here to help each and every one of you. And again, this is the closeout of our season one, but it's just the closeout of this topic. We're going to be like we talked earlier, having guests. We're going to be having, different topics we're exploring. We're going to eventually have people on in our chat to, engage. If you have a question, let us know. If there's something you want us to talk about, let us know and we'll engage.
And if you found that this episode totally resonated with you, we would love for you to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend who needs this reminder today. And as always, we want to say, welcome home, wild ones.
Welcome home, wild ones. Thank you for joining us on Whisper to the Wild One. If today's conversation spoke to your spirit, we'd love for you to share, like, subscribe, and leave a review. To stay connected, visit us at www.luminous-self.com.
Or follow us on Instagram at your_luminous_self.
Or reach out directly at contact@luminous-self.com.
This podcast has been a Luminous Self production. Until next time, may you continue to listen to the whispers within.